Picture two houses. One was built in 1925 and the other was built just last year. From the street, they look the same. Walls, a roof, a front door. But one of them is mostly solid wood. The other is mostly glue, wood chips, and air. And here's the part nobody told you when you signed the mortgage. You're probably living in the second one. The thing is, your house didn't get worse all at once. It happened quietly, one substitution at a time, behind the drywall, where you'd never look. Three things changed. The wood changed. The skin underneath your siding changed. And the most basic building block in the entire house, the humble 2x4, quietly stopped being a 2x4 at all. Let's start there, because it's the one you can prove in 30 seconds. Go to any hardware store, grab a 2x4, and measure it. It's not 2 inches by 4 inches. It's 1.5 by 3.5. It hasn't been the size on the label for a long time, and this wasn't a rounding error. When you do the math on the volume that went missing, a modern 2x4 has about 34% less wood in it than the name promises. People in the lumber trade have a phrase for that. They call it selling air. Now, there's a real reason boards shrink. They get cut wet, then dried, and planed smooth, and they lose size along the way. That part's legitimate. But the gap kept widening, a fraction of an inch at a time, decade after decade, because thinner boards were cheaper and let wood compete on price. Nobody announced it. It just drifted imperceptibly until 1964, when the government made it official and locked the 2x4 at 1.5 by 3.5. The name stayed. The wood left. But the size is the small story. The bigger one is what the wood itself became. The studs holding up an old house came from old-growth trees, forest giants that grew slowly for 200-300 years before they were cut. Slow growth means tight rings, dense wood, natural rot resistance baked right into the grain. Take a thin slice of old siding and you might count 29 growth rings packed into it. Take the same slice from a new board and you'll count 7. That density is why 100-year-old houses are still standing straight, while some homes from the last few decades sag and rot. Here's the problem. We ran out. Over 90% of America's old-growth forest has been logged since the 1600s. By the 1940s, it was mostly gone. So we switched to tree farms, fast-growing pine, harvested in 10 to 20 years instead of 300. Softer wood, wider rings, more likely to twist, move, and rot. The same name, lumber, for a completely different material. And when the cheap fast wood wasn't even good enough on its own, we started gluing. Walk through a house being framed today and look closely at the studs. You'll see some made of short chunks of wood, joined end to end with little interlocking zigzag teeth. Those are finger-jointed studs, scrap pieces glued into one long board, then primed white so you can't tell. A lot of them are stamped vertical use only, meaning they're fine standing still in a wall but not rated to bend. Now, I have to be fair here because this is where it gets complicated. The engineers aren't wrong when they push back. Modern lumber is graded and tested. Houses don't actually weigh that much, and the math works out on paper. Some engineered wood, the laminated beams, the I-joists, is genuinely stronger and straighter than anything the old builders had. Your new house is very unlikely to fall down. That fear is mostly myth. But it won't collapse is a really low bar to clear. And the skin underneath your siding is where that bar gets tested. Old houses were sheathed in solid wood boards or thick plywood. Your new house is almost certainly wrapped in OSB, oriented strand board, which is wood chips pressed together with resin. It's cheaper. The trade-off, as one builder put it bluntly, was purely financial. And it has one nasty weakness. There's an old job site saying, "Wet plywood delaminates, but wet OSB crumbles." Over that, builders staple a thin plastic sheet, house wrap, the Tyvek you've seen flapping on construction sites, which is the only thing standing between your wall and water. Leave it exposed to sun too long, more than about 90 days. And even that starts breaking down before the siding ever goes on. So stack it up. The board is thinner. The wood is younger and softer. The studs are glued from scraps. The sheathing dissolves if it gets wet. None of it is illegal. None of it is, on its own, a scandal. Every single piece passed code. That's exactly the point. Your house was optimized, not to last 300 years, but to hit a price and a deadline. And that's the real answer to what your house is made of. Not brick, not the solid timber in the old place down the street. It's the cheapest combination of wood, glue, and paper that a code inspector will sign off on. A house built to clear inspection, not to outlive you. Which leaves one honest question, and I genuinely don't know the answer. Did we get a worse house? Or did we just get a cheaper, more disposable one? And nobody ever told us that's the trade we were making? Your grandparents' house was built like it was supposed to be inherited. Yours was built like it was supposed to be replaced.